Today we're talking about fantastic movies. Wait, no, we're talking about fantasy movies. Oh, right, all right. Today we're talking about our favorite fantasy movies. Theme music.
Two sides of the same coin.
That podcast is weird.
Hello, welcome to Two Sides of the Same Coin, the podcast where nerds talk about their nerdisms. Today I am your host. Every day I am your host, Noah Hewitt. And today we're talking about our favorite fantasy films. And today I am with a special guest, a friend of mine who I've met through doing movie trivia, and he's a pretty cool dude. Today I am with Shane Davoe.
Hey Noah, glad to be here. Appreciate for you having me on your podcast here.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on, Shane. Um, I'm trying to think of a good way to get into this, but well, would you say? I from the conversations that we've had about movies, would you say that fantasy films is one of your favorite genres?
It's one of those ones where I grew up mostly watching. Now watching what I watch nowadays, it's one of probably my top two categories that I
Yeah,
watch. But growing up, it was one of those ones where I gravitated to the most. Eventually, going to two other categories, but it's still a part of my three that I watch.
yeah. I would say fantasy films were a big part of my childhood, and still, I would say a decent part of what I watch today. I didn't realize how many. Like, it's a very large category because you. It's not. It's not really limited to a lot of things. It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to think what's a good way to describe fantasy films. It's it's more, I would say, more like, I wouldn't say necessarily magic is always involved, but I feel like that plays a key part.
I compare it to like if anything's fancy, it's something you naturally don't see in the human world.
That's
Something that you
true.
feel as though it can make you feel like it's like any like superhero movie where in terms
Yeah.
of superheroes it's not really fantasy but you want to be in that world where you can have those
Yeah.
powers. You want to be in that situation, and fantasy being that where you could place yourself in those worlds and think, you know what,
Mm,
if I was there I would have this, I could do that. And
yeah.
one of those things that people want to gravitate to compared to that like crime films where you see all the crime. It's like, I don't really want to be there, but I think it would be cool to at least see that happen.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. So let's just dive right into it, Shane. Shane, you go first. What is your number 10 for fantasy films?
Number 10 here I thought about this for a little bit because if this was top five, this will probably be higher on my list. But since we're doing top 10, I put on here the Mortal Kombat 2021 film that was released 2 years ago. Um, Basically, having it being like the reboot of the franchise of or the movies that were coming out during the 90s.
Mm.
This was a good start to what potentially this next franchise could be with the characters and the story. Now, the new one is coming out next year, and from what
Oh,
I've seen, it looks like it's going to be actually going into an actual Mortal Kombat tournament, so we could be actually seeing some similarities between the games and this movie, but we'll have to wait and see. But this is my number 10.
oh yeah, that's cool. I've seen actually, yeah, I watched that movie. It was interesting. I mean, I I wouldn't, it's not on my top 10, but I would say yeah, it was a pretty good movie. Definitely excited for the sequel. I will say I did have a few issues with it just because it like deviated a little bit from like the original storyline, but if you're going to make a movie like based on a story that's already like created, you can't just copy that like part for part, or you're just gonna get the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's pretty cool, Shane. I honestly didn't think about that movie. That movie's pretty awesome. Um, so my number 10 is a movie I actually watched for the first time last year, I believe. It's actually not. just an animated film, but one of the few anime films I've seen, specifically a Studio Ghibli film, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
Okay.
Um, it's I was not expecting to fall in love with this film so quickly. It's at first, if you like watch it, you might think it's more of like a sci-fi film, but I would say with the way the world is, it's more of a fantasy, just with like some of the creatures and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think of a good way to explain it. It's just it's kind has a post-apocalyptic feel to it, and it's just like and these giant like insects basically just roam the world, and this girl kind of just like brings peace in the end between people and bugs, and it was just I don't know, great movie. Animation is great. Um, it has like a pretty all-star cast. Like Patrick Stewart's in this film. Very young Shia LaBeouf. I think Mark Hamill was in it. It's yeah, it was just a great film, and um, I would say one of the cutest animated characters you will ever see because there's what it's like a fox squirrel. It's very interesting. Yeah. I wish I could go more in depth to it, but it's like most Studio Ghibli films, it's kind of hard to explain. But yeah, that's my number 10.
And for my number 9 here, I have a one that I grew up watching very adamantly for a long time. Is the animated Hercules movie from 1997 is my number 9. Um, Growing up watching this year every day when I was a kid, watching it whenever I got home from school was one of the things I look forward to, and especially now rewatching it now, it still holds up to nowadays animation for the most part. The soundtrack is one of the best that Disney's ever done for a
Oh,
film.
definitely one of the best.
There's some aspects of the film where some people could say, is it really fantasy? But it follows the Greek mythology, so it's their fantasy telling of the Greek
Yeah,
mythology of Hercules. But I enjoyed it growing up. I liked the cast of what they did. I enjoyed the story of it, and really wish they would have made a sequel of the animated one, but they made a TV series. But it is
yeah,
what it is. But the original Hercules from '97 is one of those ones where you have to watch if you're an animated fantasy fan.
yeah. Remember when all the boys were named Jason and all the girls were named Brittany?
Oh god. Oh.
Yeah, no, I almost put this movie on the list. I don't know. For me, it didn't quite fit fantasy, but yeah, no, love the movie. Um, there are talks right now of a live action film being made. I'm I really don't want there to be because this movie is just so near and dear to my heart, and I don't know. I haven't really been satisfied with Disney remakes as of late. But yeah, no, that's a great pick, Shane. So my number 9 is also a childhood favorite. Actually, so this was a movie I was kind of afraid of as a kid, but now as an adult, I've come to love it. And it's such a classic film that I feel like has many variations of today. And I think it was one of the first films that went from black and white to color, and that is The Wizard of Oz. Um, I think it's just it's a fantasy family film classic, and I love all the characters. I enjoy the music. Granted, as a kid, I thought the witch was terrifying, but I mean that's kind of what you want in this film, and you're so excited when the witch is defeated in the end, and I feel like there's so many good themes. Granted, there's some dark stuff happening on the background of the set, but yeah, no, I good film, love it.
And unfortunately, I didn't have Wizard of Oz on mine because Yeah, I grew up. I did watch it whenever my mom had the VHS and
Yeah.
whenever it was on TV. It was just to me, I didn't feel like it cracked my top 10 because there's other ones I thought were better in my opinion.
Yeah.
But number 8, I have one of the premier franchises in fantasy. And it's going to be probably one that's going to shock you. I have a Star Wars film here, Episode
Okay.
3, Revenge of the Sith at 8. Um, I had to think about this one because to me it was between having Episode 3 or Return of the Jedi, and when I
Mm,
thought about it, Episode 3 soundtrack with alone of the story that was going on in Episode 3 this was the conclusion leading up to what Anakin became of Darth Vader.
yeah.
This was definitely that film that was a pre. Even though everyone has their opinions on the prequels, this was one film that solidified that prequels is maybe not a horrible three film trilogy, but it was one of
Yeah.
the where it culminated in what he became.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good pick. I mean, for me, I personally did not put any Star Wars films on my list just because of the I don't know, for me, I mean, I see the fantasy aspect, but I feel like it's more science fiction, to me. Granted, they're technically if you, like, look at them very closely, technically sci-fi and fantasy are basically the same thing. It's just people like to separate them, especially, like, with the technology and, um, magic. Yeah, that's a good pick. I probably would have put, Return of the Jedi on my list, but yeah, that's a great pick, and think, fan favorite too. My number 8. I will think number 8. Number 8 will be okay, my number 8 is going to be another animated movie. An animated movie actually, it's technically 3 movies, but for me, it's technically 2 because I haven't seen the 3rd one yet. It is an animated movie that I didn't really appreciate when I was young. Granted, I didn't really watch it that much. But then I watched it again, and I was like, "Okay, this is not bad." And I watched the sequel, and I loved it. And I watched both of them again for the first time in a while, and it's, How to Train Your Dragon. Um, I thought it was something silly as a kid. I was like, "Okay, there's dragons, there's Vikings, it's okay." Um, granted, I felt like you never really heard anything between dragons and Vikings until How to Train Your Dragon. But I watched when I watched it again, I don't know, I really like the wonder and, like, the bond between, like, man and dragon in this movie. Especially, I don't know, there's something about the 2nd film, I just I got very emotional with it, like, the love story and just, I don't know, it's dragons. What can I say? And the animation, the music is beautiful, and I don't know. I I don't know. I love this movie. It's a fun ride, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Then number 7 here I have of mine is another one of those franchises I grew up watching, and I really appreciate what they've done with it over the course of
Mm.
time. Is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. Um, from here, I feel as though this is the film where it should have ended off with the franchise.
I 100% agree, Shane.
After after
100%.
after this point, it became more of okay. It's just let's stock in the money, get as much money as we can, come up with an idea, build it off from there. This was the culmination of Jack's story in terms of what we know him as. Him from the first film getting back his ship to the second one of him actually meeting the reason why he has the ship, and then
Mhm.
now him ending it by getting rid of Jones, and now he's able to roam the seas as a free pirate for the most part. But I thought this was one of those films where Johnny Depp as the character fulfilled what he needed to do as Jack Sparrow, and should have ended it off right there. But hey, when money talks, you decide to make more.
Yeah, and supposedly there's a sixth film in the works. Um, so my number 7 is also a Pirates of the Caribbean film. Granted, I can't really, I don't know, I can't really pick like a favorite one. I mean, it would be between the first three, because honestly, I think yeah, that's after the third one, it kind of stops for me. Because four, I don't care, and five is just awful. I will say I love what the first one's Curse of the Black Pearl, correct?
Uh huh.
I do love that one because that's kind of where it all starts, and I love the music, I love the sword fighting, and then is it Dead Man's Chest is the second one, right, Shane?
Yep.
Dead Man's Chest. I like. I don't know if I like that less or more. I will say I think the sword fights are more intense in that film. Granted, I do also love At World's End. I don't know. Great, great franchise. Uh, Wonderful character acting. Like I love Johnny Depp in this film. I think it's one of his best performances. And like I don't know, it's just you have a good time watching these films because there's action, there's comedy. I mean, who who doesn't like as soon as they see a jar of dirt immediately go, "I got jar of dirt. I got jar of dirt."
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just Parts of the Caribbean. Great time, great movies.
And then number 6 here, I have I'll say a live action version of an original classic that was remade with a certain actor who most of our league will probably agree is probably one of the best ones to ever live in terms of his enthusiasm and what he does. I have the live action 2000s movie How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey. Um, Even this is technically it's a holiday fantasy because of what
Yeah,
they go with, but this growing up when you watch it compared to the original from the 19 probably I'm gonna get the year wrong 40s or 60s between that time frame of Grinch or maybe even before that probably by the early 1900s. This How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey in it, knowing that he's the only one actor who can make the faces that the Grinch did in the original was so unbelievable.
right.
And
The animated movie came out 1966.
yeah, so about between the 1940s and 60s, so it was between there. Um, yeah, for the fact that he's the only actor who can naturally get those faces, and
Yeah,
people thought for a long time that that was CGI that he didn't know, but he can actually make his face and contort it in the way to make it. And the
oh
fact that
wait,
he's
that's
situated,
not makeup.
yeah, yep, and the fact that he's actually able to do that role, and he did the role good. Now, people hate some people. Well, I think some people hate the film just because they are like the original from the '60s. Just for the fact that it was animated, they like the
Yeah,
concept. It was Doctor Who. It doesn't really follow Doctor Who's or Doctor Seuss's story,
yeah,
but overall, it was a great film though, from what I remember, and I still watch it
yeah,
whenever it comes on.
yeah. Me too. I said, what? In the Christmas episode I did, we talked about this movie, and what did I say? Okay, I do appreciate the animated movie more because that's just what I watched first, and I think that I mean it's really the animation is just like the retelling of the story, like word for word. Um, Jim Carrey version though, here's the thing: I may not love the movie, but my favorite part is just every scene that Jim Carrey's in. Like, give me a montage of Jim Carrey in that film, and I love it. I'm all about it. Um, and I mean, everyone love. If you don't like the movie, most people love his performance. Especially, you hear people quoting that film as like, hate, loathe entirely. Max, get my cloak."
Mm.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's a good film, and I respect that pick. Fun fact: Jim Carrey actually had to get trained by I forget who it was but it was like someone who trained like special operatives to endure torture, and like Jim Carrey had to like I forget, he, like, smoked a lot and, like, went through some psychological stuff just because of, like, the costume he was wearing for that film. They like to call it, like, the yak hair or the yak skin or something like that. I know, I feel sorry for him. I couldn't wear all that fur for, like, however long. Okay, I we are on number 6. My number 6, I know some people are gonna get mad at me because 'cause they're gonna think I rank this movie a little low. For me, my number 6, it's going to be one of the Lord of the Rings films, and, granted, I will say I have not seen Lord of the Rings enough. They're, I would say, great movies. I really wish I've read the books. It's on my to-do list. I don't know. I feel like Lord of the Rings, when you think of fantasy, I feel like that's one of the first things you think of, just because of like the dwarves, the elves, rangers, and just like I don't know, just the hero story and fighting orcs and stuff. But I would say for my number 6, the Lord of the Ring film that I picked, which a lot of people are gonna disagree with, is Fellowship of the Ring. Now, granted, I do love all the movies. But Fellowship of the Ring, I the reason I love that film the most is just one, the introduction of all the characters. I just think that's great. But for me is Gandalf's sacrifice because everyone loves that scene. I mean, you've heard almost everyone who blocks someone's way say, "Thou you shall not pass." And also, I think another great moment in this film is like when Boromir sacrifices himself in the end because literally 2 seconds ago he tried to like betray Frodo, and then he goes from sacrificing himself to save two annoying hobbits. Um, but yeah, I just Lord of the Rings. Something I need to do more research in and spend more time watching. I will say great films, and I think has the potential of getting higher on my list. It's just movies are very long, especially if you take the time to watch the extended editions, which I have not yet. Um, Shane, I know you have a love for Lord of the Rings. Do you want to say something about this, or do you want to wait till it's get to that on your list?
I have like no issue with it. Again, it's a matter of preference when it comes to these
Yeah,
films. I think that the original trilogy is better than the newest trilogy that they did.
yeah.
And
The Hobbit's weak.
yep, and from whenever they release the animated one next year for the Lord of the Rings, the Rohirrim War for Rohirrim, that
Oh,
one's
good. Okay.
that one's going to determine a lot in terms of if they're going to make any more movies after that.
Mm,
But the fact that the Hobbit trilogy was not my favorite, considering that there was supposed to be a prequel to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and we
yeah,
understand in the books we know what happened with that. But Lord the Fellowship is not that bad. If it's like you said, if it's just right outside your top five, I had no problem if it's even in your top 10. It's just the fact that it's one of the first films that for Percy Jackson, for him as a director, it put him. I don't say it put him on the map, but it put him on lookout for a lot of
yeah.
fantasy films that like he knows what he's doing,
Hmm.
knowing he used J.K. Rowling or Tolkien's book to
Yeah,
make these movies, and he followed it premise by premise per book as best he
yeah.
could, and he did a phenomenal job. But we'll have to wait and see what the new one looks like. But I didn't mind it here at number 6.
Okay. I got a question. Have you seen Rings of Power? I know that's not a movie. That's a series.
Yeah, the Amazon
Yeah.
one.
Did you like it?
I did not. I
Okay.
understand why they did it, and
Okay.
it's to try and get more. They want to get more of those people who love Lord of the Rings on Amazon Prime
Yeah.
and stuff. But to me, it made no freaking sense whatsoever. I understand what you wanted to make a story, but if you're going based off what they were hopefully Percy was involved with it. But the fact that the most of the concept of what they were trying to do on there made no sense from a canonical standpoint. If you
Yeah.
know the Lord of the Rings history, it makes no sense, but it's a money grab. I just didn't like the whole idea of them actually making the Lord of the Rings TV show.
Yeah.
It's made for a movie, not TV.
Yeah. I agree. I personally haven't watched it and really have no interest in watching it. But Shane, what's your number 5?
Number 5 here, I have one of those ones where I actually will watch now more probably than most of these other ones, but I like it especially around Halloween time. It's Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. This one I preferred over the original, and then the most recent 2019, which was a other piece of dog crap. But this one, the fact that we were supposed to get a third one after this, but some issues with the studio and actors. But the whole concept of this film was so great. The fact that we get to see them reference Hellboy's lineage, the fact that he almost could have ended his or could have died in this film, and we get to see how he would have been tempted to take this army if he did not have his girlfriend there at the time in the film to stop him. But I thought overall it was a great concept. The underlying story of the ancient royal family of this film, and the fact that Hellboy is considered one of the ancient royals based off his family history. But I like the whole concept of it, and it really makes one of those fantasy films where it's the fact that it involves demons and unnatural things from creatures you don't expect, like trolls, goblins,
Mm,
to be in this sort of film based around a demon, Hellspawn. But it was overall a good film.
that's cool. Yeah. I don't know. The Hellboy movies. I don't know. Granted, I don't like to watch stuff that's around like I don't know too supernatural, but I've kind of been I don't know. It is something I kind of want to watch at some point. I know that they've done like animated stuff. Like as I'm looking right now, I know there's an animated series things about, and I know there's a few animated films that that look interesting. I don't know. Do you think it's something that I might like, Shane?
The the animated ones, I would say you might want to look into because from what I remember, they're very they're much more darker than the
Okay.
TV and the movies because there are a lot more stuff they got away with at the time with the TV
Okay.
show.
Okay.
Movies, if you like Ron Perlman
Okay.
as an actor, and if you like the other characters on the other actors on there, you will like the film. The
Okay.
film is not as dark as what they can be based off of, but there are like okay, they did involve like some characters like Rasputin in the first one.
Okay.
Uh, they do have obviously supernatural meanings, but it's not
Yeah.
overall. If you enjoy it's take it as like fantasy and just watch it as
Yeah.
the film, you'll like it. It's not as
Okay.
bad as what people say. I would not recommend the 2019 one. That was just utter garbage.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I will definitely look into that. My number 5, I think, is I don't know. It's a classic. I wouldn't say it could be a cult classic. I would say a lot of people have heard of this film, and that is the Princess Bride.
Good.
I remember watching this film like a lot as a kid. For me, it was just basically the sword fights because I would literally watch that movie over and over again just to watch the sword fight scenes. Um, and I don't know. I just think it's a classic because it's just you just see a wonderful love story. You see a cool sword fights. You see Andre the Giant on the big screen. And I think that's great. And there's just so many quotable lines. And you see Billy Crystal just doing his usual antics. It's just yeah, I would say a good movie. Maybe not the best fantasy film, but it's I think it's a good watch. and I always have a good time watching it.
Yeah, that was one of those ones where I was thinking because I remember watching the Princess Bride, and it's one of those ones where if you like the fantasy of the unknown boy finding love in this princess and then having to protect her, and then the fact that we get Andre the Giant, who's perfect for the role of what he
Yeah,
played. We get these other characters. It's overall supposed to be a funny fantasy film based off the overall concept, but you
yeah,
actually it's one of those ones where you can watch over and over and over again and still get enjoyment out of it. Even today,
yeah,
with how it was from the 1980s, you still enjoy it.
yeah. I mean, it does surprisingly for a film that's mainly comedic, it does have a few dark turns.
Mhm. Yep, I agree. And then my number 4 here, as we're getting near the end of our getting to the top 3, I actually have another one that would be more closer to a little bit similar to Hellboy 2, but I have Dracula Untold as my top 4.
So
Um,
that's funny you mentioned that because a friend literally gave me two movies that he thinks I should watch. One of those movies was Kingdom of Heaven, and
okay.
another of the other movie was Dracula Untold, and I'm going to watch it this weekend. That's wow, that's funny that you mentioned that film.
Both of which I would suggest you watch. Both
Okay.
are good. But the fact that this film, it's a retelling of basically a Dracula story, but from a different aspect of he is a former ruler of his country, leaves
Mm,
them to become the ruler of this, and then he finds out that the rival country that he was fighting is going to take over his country that he's ruling, and he doesn't have the strength to do it, so he ends up finding an old legend of of this supposed person living in the cave that has monstrous power, and he ends up
mm,
seeing it and makes a deal with it that whenever his time comes, he will become the vampire master, and then they'll have to fight each other to the end of days.
wow.
And he ends up taking upon the power, not noticing right away, but as the course throughout the movie, you start to see
Mm,
he starts to change. People start to realize he's not human anymore. They start to see the
mm,
obvious signs of vampirism, of him
mm.
avoiding the sun. But it gets a little bit like it pulls a little bit, I would say, at the motions with what happens with his family.
Okay.
But he does get like a sort of cliffhanger at the very end of what could have happened if there was a sequel to this film.
Mm,
Overall, I enjoyed it from the whole concept of it. This director's telling of Dracula, and I thought it was overall a great film. Not good enough to be in my top 3, but it's one of those ones where I enjoy watching it from the fantasy aspect of the whole Dracula story in
mm.
terms of what's known as the books.
Yeah. Yeah, I look forward to watching it. Yeah, it looks like a very cool film. So my number 4 is we're going back to another animated film. I would say this is definitely a cult classic film. Not too many people enjoy this film, and this is Walt Disney's The Sword in the Stone. Now, I will
Mhm.
tell you, I did not like this movie as a kid. I saw Mad Madam Mim, and I was terrified. But now, what I was literally talking to my cousin a year or two ago, and he was like, "You should watch this movie. I think you would enjoy it." And I had a blast. It's just jokes that are made in this movie is just hilarious. It's classic Walt Disney animation. And you get to see like King Arthur before he was King Arthur, and it's just yeah, it's just a good old time. Great music, and it's just yeah, classic Disney as I like to remember it. when this before they were just all about the money, money, money.
Mhm. And there definitely is one of those ones where I remember watching that.
Yeah.
I believe I still have the heck. I probably still have the whole VHS back in my old house.
Oh, I have my VHS somewhere, and I just bought the DVD not too long ago. I'm slowly transferring all my old VHSs to DVDs before my VHS player dies, but it's still working so far.
And especially with the old animation Disney, like it's even
Yeah.
hilarious because you will have to find it. But if you can watch the old VHS film of whenever they have certain scenes and you
Mm.
memorize them, and then you watch like another old original Disney classic like Jungle Book, you'll see
Oh
the
yeah.
similarities in the characters or how they move and stuff. It's the same basically
Oh,
animation, just a different movie.
yeah. Oh, you mean well they like so they'll take the basic like animation and reuse it in other films.
Yep.
And they do. I mean, granted, I don't blame them because it's cheaper that way. Um, okay, yeah. Shane, let's go to your number three.
My number three is a another animated film I have here. This one is actually one of those ones where me and my buddy, who's my current roommate right now, we watched in college and we actually enjoyed it when we saw it. It's a anime style film. It's called Your Name, and
Mm.
it's one of those ones where it's romantic fantasy where it falls around two characters in which one somewhat lives in the current day Tokyo, Japan, while another one who lived in the past. And they both see this comet that comes through the sky and apparently ends up at her time when she was in the past, ends up destroying her hometown and ends up actually killing her in the past. And then him in
Wow.
present day ends up seeing the same comet during her time period. And whenever they fall asleep, they switch bodies. And so he ends up going to the past, she comes to the future in his body. And they have to try and figure out a way to have her survive, and her family survive, and everyone in her town. This comet that's coming down,
Huh.
and it's so good in terms of like the endearing concepts of the fact that there's time travel, and they end up actually in the end both living. She ends up living through it. Everyone in her hometown ends up living through this mirror, the crash, and they end up seeing each other at the end of the film. And right when they're at the very end, to say they're about to say, "Wait, are you who I think you are?" And right when they're
Mm.
about to say their names, the title pops up and ends the film. So it's one of those ones where it's so good because you want them to say their names that they know each other from, especially living in their own lives in their different bodies. It's one of those ones where if you enjoy the romantic aspect of a fantasy film, you will enjoy this because they actually grow to each other, knowing that they end up liking and loving each other, even though they have never met each other in person until those final moments of the film.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll definitely have to check it out. Yeah, that's from how you described it. That sounds very interesting. Definitely, yeah, I'll definitely put that on the list of stuff to watch. It's pretty cool. Yeah, wow. I mean, it's. I'm looking at like the reviews right now. It's like very highly rated.
Mm-hmm.
IMDb gave it an 8.4. My anime list gave it 8.8. Crunchyroll gave it a 4.9 out of 5. Wow, that's definitely something I'm gonna have to watch. That's pretty cool, Shane. All right, my number three is definitely um one of my favorite fantasy films. I just remember watching this a lot as a kid, and I don't know. I remember just being captivated by all the wonder in it, and that film is the Chronicles of Narnia and the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the only good movie out of that franchise. I was just I don't know, I thought the movie was so cool from, like, sword fights to, like, you get to see, like, all these, mystical creatures, to Aslan, to, uh, Liam Neeson playing Aslan. It was just I just love the film, and you just see, like, this family of kids just trying to survive, trying to protect one another, and fighting for their lives and fighting for this, this land that they stumbled upon. And, yeah, I just, think it's really cool, and especially, I don't know, I think it's cool that it's kind of like meta it's a metaphorical film, kinda taking some, like, things from the Bible. 'Cause there's definitely some similarities, but yeah, I love this film. It's a great movie. Prince Caspian was awful. It kinda became a sexist, film, and Voyage of the Dawn Treader was okay.
And I remember watching because I know Austin and me specifically know because they played because in our third grade class we were watched that film near Christmas time for right before Christmas break. Every
Mm,
year in elementary school they would show that, and we watched it so many times it was like, okay, we get the whole idea,
yeah.
especially with what was going on. But yeah, I have no problem. I actually enjoyed it when I was younger. I haven't watched it in years, but if I probably sit down and watch it again, I might be, you know what? Yeah, I remember that. I can enjoy it again, but I'll have to see it when it comes back on.
I will say the CGI surprisingly still holds up pretty well. Like, for a film, like, I think it came out, I'm I wanna say 2009. I'm fact checking right now. It came or did I say 2005 or did I say 2009?
I
I think
heard
it's
2009.
okay, I meant to say 2005. Um, yeah, for a film that came out in 2005, it did pretty well. It had, like, yeah, it had, granted, you it has a good cast. Granted, you don't really know any of the kids because I don't think pe any of the actors who played the Pevensey children are really in anything today. But, Tilda Swinton and James McAvoy and plus, Liam Neeson, it's just, yeah, great movies. All will always be near and dear to my heart. Well, the first one, at least.
Yeah. And then for my number two here, actually, as we're getting near the end, it's actually one of the probably the most popular movies from the early 2000s up into the mid to late 2010s. This franchise, which I thought this film was arguably the best film in the franchise, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is my number
Mm,
two. Um, just for the concept of this is where the franchise started to turn from the oh okay, there's always going to be a happy ending to now it's really getting there's not going to be any more happy endings now. We're getting to the dark parts of the story where people will die and they got to realize it. It's not going to happen as always. Oh, we saved the world. We saved the Wizarding World, guys. We got it done. The fact that this film set the precedent of where we get to see Voldemort come back in the flesh, and he ends up killing one of the storied, even though it's for one film only, one of the most iconic characters in the story right in front of Harry, and then thus starts off a chain of events that ends up causing most of Harry's closest friends and family that he, even though not related blood family, but some blood family, some not related family, end up getting killed after us because of this film going on. It's just one of those ones where, as a Harry Potter fan, it changed everything for everyone, knowing that the first three films were, oh, there's a happy ending here, there's a happy ending here. We get to see Hagrid come back after being sent to Azkaban in the third one, and it ends off on a happy note. that there's no longer going to be happy endings now until the very end, and even then there won't be a happy ending.
That's pretty cool, Shane. I still need to watch Harry Potter. I'm trying to read the books first. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So my number two is a film that actually came out just this year, 2023. It was a film that I just was surprised how much I loved. And that was the Dungeons and Dragons movie. It was just a wild ride. I mean, I don't know how to expect it. I mean, if you played D&D, I mean, it's just everything you could expect in D&D, but in a movie. And I just loved all the references. I loved the characters. I loved Chris Pine in the movie. It was just, yeah, it was just a great film. It was hilarious. But sadly, it did not do well. In the box office, it did great critically. Critics loved it, but not enough people went out to see it. That kind of makes me sad. But yeah, no, I love this movie, and I recommend to everyone to watch it because it's literally D&D in a movie. If you play D&D, if you experience D&D, this movie is for you. If you haven't played D&D, this movie is for you. It's as I said, it's a fun ride.
I did see it was one of those films where I was going to see, but then I realized I just from the concept of it, there's certain concepts that, in my opinion, should not be made in the film, and one of those being Dungeons and Dragons, because you could do it so it could be either so great that it's, oh my god, it's one of the best films ever made, based off that. But if you don't do it right, and the fact that it's based off a book, card, dice game, you could do it. It could be good, but it's not going to live up to the expectations of those fans. And if it doesn't, that's what's going to kill the whole film. And that's what ended up happening. The fans didn't like it for the most part, and that's why they didn't get a lot of profit.
That's interesting. I mean, so that's what you heard? Because I kind of heard, so I don't know. My thing from what I heard from a lot of people is I heard a lot of people loved it, especially I went to see it with my cousin who is a D&D or not D&D fanatic. He's a DM. He regularly DMs at his library, and he literally loved every bit of it, and he got every inside joke and everything. My thing that I heard from people about this movie, if they didn't see it, was a lot of people were afraid to see it because they were either like, "Oh, I don't want a D&D movie because it's just not gonna be good," or "I'm afraid to see it because I don't know anything about D&D."
I can understand that. It's one of those if you understand there's people I know me and my buddies most recently we have Baldur's Gate. We play Baldur's Gate 3 and we enjoy it. If you're not into the whole concept, if it's basically if you're into fantasy, and you should enjoy it. It's a fantasy film, so if you disregard the whole Dungeons and Dragons part, you just enjoy the fantasy aspect, you'll enjoy it. It's just that from what my buddies know and what I know, my friends who are Dungeons and Dragons, they hated the whole thing.
Really?
That they love Dungeons and Dragons. They just don't like that this film was. They like the idea that the film was made, but it made no sense for them to make a film about that unless you were actually going to go full bore and actually show from an aspect of if it's Dungeons and Dragons, have the kit they have the concept, the characters themselves, but have an outside effect of those players. For example, Stranger Things, they were playing Dungeons and Dragons, they had that, and they put themselves in the spot of the characters. So if we could have got
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. That's a fair point. It's a fair point.
It's just one of those words. If they would have had an aspect of the real world, kids are playing this,
yeah,
and then be
I get.
I want to be this character, and you see that character manifest in the story, and then you actually go to the world and then be like them get like that two aspect of real world and the fantasy world. That would have been a connection for those types of fans of D&D. Like, oh my god, that's us, and we can actually get into that.
So kind of like a never-ending story kind of thing.
Sort of, yeah, like that. But
Okay.
now it's like it's difficult to say because it's one you
Yeah.
have to be playing it to understand what they know, and it's like
Yeah.
you don't play Dungeons and Dragons. It's like one of those. It's difficult because it's like you want to visualize people who like that like want to visualize themselves in the movie.
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah.
be that? Can I put myself as a character in there? If they can't do it, they're not going to enjoy the film, and they're just going to watch it and then be like, "Yeah, I ain't watched it. I didn't really enjoy it. I couldn't put myself in there."
That's a fair point. All right, Shane. Before we go to your number one, do you have any honorable mentions?
Um, Not really. There's maybe some honorable mentions would have been maybe for like a fantasy film. Maybe I would have had the Back to the Future franchise
Okay.
for the fact that yes, it's science fiction, but there are the fact that you have time travel, which
Yeah.
in most recent and fantasy films we started to see more and more them trying to implement this type of
Mm,
concept. That growing me watching that on TV and on DVDs and VHS years after they have been done, that franchise, especially with the whole concept of time travel at the time when they thought
yeah.
about it, unbelievable with the fact that yes, the fact that it was a car made a time machine, which was a great idea concept, and the fact that that boost, let alone the film, that car, the DeLorean, made massive sales off the film,
Yeah. Wow.
and the fact that we get to see Jamie, or not my Jamie Foxx, Michael J. Fox
Yeah.
play as Marty. We get to see Doc Brown.
Christopher Lloyd.
Yep, Christopher Lloyd. It's one of those where it's unbelievable. They worked
Yeah.
perfectly there. Unfortunately, I really wish there was after the third film there was a script made for a fourth film, but they both decided they didn't want to make a fourth film to ruin
Yeah.
the whole trilogy, which was a great idea on their part. I wish they would have done a fourth one, only for the fact that I want to know what happens to Doc Brown after he had his kids in the third one.
So, fun fact, you might regret me sharing this with you. Did you know there's a Back to the Future animated series?
Yeah, Rick and Morty.
No, there's it's literally it's called like it's Back to the Future the animated series.
Mm.
They made like I think 14 episodes. Well, let me it's I didn't even know this existed until I was at Just Press Play and I saw a Doc Brown Chia Pet and I was like, that doesn't look like Doc Brown. And then I looked a little closer and it's like and I looked this up and it's really weird. Um it looks like it literally looks like a well it's a 1990s animated film or not film show, but it supposedly from what I'm looking at right now, it has the entire Back to the Future cast, I think, excluding I don't know if Michael J. Fox is in it, but it looks very interesting. I should watch it at some point. Um, okay, Shane, what's your number one?
My number one is what I know me and Jamie have talked about as probably being one of the arguably I don't know if it's one of his favorite fantasy films, but it's definitely one of those ones where he likes. So I have to rewatch it sometime. I know I've stated it's probably one of my favorite fantasy films. Um, it is in Lord of the Rings. It's the one that arguably is probably the greatest Lord of the Rings film. Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. Um, the fact that we get to see the culmination of not only the ring getting destroyed in this film, but we get to see the whole canonical story of Aragorn getting his story to an end of him actually living up to his blood and actually deciding, you know what, I need to be the king, and he ends up becoming the king of his throne in Gondor and actually living up to his bloodline and his ancestors' name
Yeah.
was one of those ones where it solidified that franchise, and the fact that Viggo Mortensen lived up to that Aragorn role 100% is one of those combination films, especially if you watch the normal film and then you watch the extended. It's the same film from there, maybe a few more scenes, but like you get to see the whole idea and the whole freaking story of he had to do what he needed to do in the end, and he lived up to his line of his bloodline, and he actually ended the whole Sauron war with Frodo throwing the ring in with slash Gollum. But it was done perfectly well in the fact that this film and its predecessor both, even though this film did win Best Picture, its predecessor should have won Best Picture, but they screwed the Twin Towers out of that for reasons. But this film is definitely one of those ones where if you're a fantasy watcher, you need to watch the fact that it has so many aspects of war. You get to see one of the second biggest battles in that franchise. The Twin Towers has the biggest battle ever, and it will never change my mind in terms of a fantasy battle. The fact that they had to go through what they did was unbelievable, and the fact that they did all these scenes in New Zealand was unbelievable.
Yeah, that's wow. And no, I like that movie too. I don't know. I guess the biggest thing, I think the reason why it's not on my list, I love the entire movie except for, and I understand why this happens. It's like right before the ring like goes into the lava, um like Frodo, he basically turns evil for like 2 seconds until Gollum tackles him and falls into the lava with the ring. Um I don't know. I don't like a character that you've grown to love. Like you literally hate him for like what, like 3 minutes. He becomes like one of the best characters to one of the worst characters in my opinion. Um I don't know. That does not make Return of the King though one of the greatest fantasy movies ever, and I will say it's definitely one of those. Okay. Before I share my number one, some honorable mentions I have. Um, One is The Dark Tower. I would say a very interesting fantasy film. It's how do I explain it? It's literally it's like the fight between good and evil. Um, it's like it's a fantasy western. Um, it's based off a Stephen King novel. I liked it. Granted, it didn't do well critically. It's kind of hated by a lot of fans. Um, Next, honorable mention, Aragon. I personally like that film. Um, Granted, I know a lot of people did not. And again, I haven't read the books. I don't know if it was anything like the books, and I don't know. The CGI wasn't the best, but I personally didn't mind it. Um, Next honorable mention, Maleficent. Um, Great story of a Disney villain, but told in a different perspective. And I think it's one of Angelina Jolie's best films. It's a great film. I just bought the Blu-ray for it. Um, Last two honorable mentions. One is Mary Poppins. It childhood favorite. I guess technically you could say it's not a fantasy film, but it definitely has the whimsical fantasy elements. And then final honorable mention, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder, not Johnny Depp. I love Johnny Depp, but I do not like him as Willy Wonka. Gene Wilder will forever be my Willy Wonka. I don't really care about Timothée Chalamet. Gene Wilder, I think, is the perfect Willy Wonka, and I love Gene Wilder in that film just to his like wholesomeness and just I think he truly embodies Willy Wonka. He has a little bit of the craziness, but more of, like the heart that Willy Wonka is supposed to show. Um, and I especially love that one of those final lines he says is like, "You get nothing, you lose. Good day, sir." Um, okay, but that's done with honorable mentions. My number one is a movie I probably talked about probably a handful of times on this podcast, maybe or maybe only once, but I'm definitely gonna talk about this movie a bunch more times in next couple episodes. It's Beauty and the Beast. It's a wonderful film. I'm If you haven't figured out which one I'm talking about the Disney animated one. The live action was garbage. I sorry, Emma Watson. I think you did terrible in that movie, but that was just me. Um, it's just it's a perfect film. If you ask me what a perfect film is, literally Beauty and the Beast, it's like right up there with me. It's just the animation is flawless. Uh, this music is wonderful. The characters are wonderful, and it's a love story, and also it teaches you a wonderful lesson of beauty is not just skin deep. It's true beauty is found within, and I just think it's a wonderful film. I will watch it over and over again and not get tired of it. And if you want to see the best version of it, get the 50th anniversary extended version, and it's just wonderful. I just it's as I said, perfect movie for me. It should have been Silence of the Lambs for best film, and I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs, but I've been told that Beauty and the Beast is a whole lot better, and that's all I have to say about that.
I
Um,
have no problem with that. That's again, it's one of those ones where if you
yeah,
if you like the original Disney film Beauty and the Beast, which I did enjoy when I was younger, is now over time I've there's films I think that have surpassed that one by a landslide.
yeah,
If it's
I
something you hold dear to yourself, it's like that's never going to change. And the fact that you
yeah,
did mention that there is this love story that it doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, it's what the inner person is, what they are on the inside that counts.
yeah,
And the fact that you get that in that story. It's one of those ones where it's definitely the Disney picture perfect film of what
yeah,
Disney was trying to get across. Now compared to the live actions, I thought the live action Emma one was good from what I've seen. I thought it was good. Well, I don't think they followed it as best they could with the live action in terms of following the same story. And there's not much you could do with that again,
yeah.
telling it in live action.
I I don't know. It's one of those movies that I just don't think translate that well to live action. Just because I feel like you lose some of the wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know, like Lumiere and Cogsworth, like you like the funny, wacky, like cartoon aspects of them in the animated film, and I don't know, you kind of lose that when you like put that in a like a miniature, like realistic CGI version. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I Some people like it, some people hate it. It's not my favorite. Again, it's probably because I love the first one so much. But Shane, thank you for doing this episode with me. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Glad to be able to come on and
Yeah.
give out our top tens for fantasy movies, and hopefully we'll see what happens in the future. Maybe if there's another video you want to do, we'll definitely work around our schedules and definitely will come on again.
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely love to do that. Shane, would you like to tell the lovely people where they can find you?
Oh yeah, you could find me on Twitter mostly as Master Psycho, but I do have a podcast which I'm trying to get everything going. I'm trying to get a list of people who are willing to do it, and that will be also on Twitter, and then on here we'll record some things on my own Discord server. But on Twitter, if you want to follow me for the podcast, that I got a level with you, we'll be on there. If you want to submit ideas, direct message to submit ideas, what you want to talk about, who if you want to be on. We're talking about anything and everything from any topic. Just trying to have a good time, just to chat about some things, get some ideas flowing, and go based off that, and just have a good back and forth conversation about any topic.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. I might be interested in doing something like that. That's really cool, Shane.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I have been your loony host, Noah, and that has been the wonderful Shane Davoe. And oh wait, I almost forgot. I didn't share. Okay, it's late at night, folks. My information will be in the link in the description. Um, two sides of the same, two sides of the same coin pod on Instagram with the number 2. And please send your hate mail, your love mail, your suggestions, your critiques to two sides of the same coin pod at gmail.com with the number 2 again. And yes, I have been your loony host, Noah, and that has and Shane. Say goodbye, Shane.
Everyone.
And Shane, you ate my enchilada. Farewell.